Welcome, I'm Bev Adams. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! This is the card I'm going to show you today. I love this technique with our glossy paper. Don't worry about taking notes. I will have the full directions for you that you can print out. This card does use Climbing Orchid and the Coordinating Orchid Builders framelits dies. I want to start with the background because I want to give it a chance to dry. I'm using a wide stamp case as my work area, but you can use a paper bag or whatever. I'm placing some paper towel in my case. I filled the spritzer with alcohol, and I want to spritz this cardstock until it's wet. And I'm going to drip the powdered pink ink refill and sweet sugar plum. We're not actually using sweet sugar plum on this card, but I found that it did go really nicely color-wise. And I'm leaving this area uninked. And I am allowing this to swirl wherever it wants to go. And I'm going to use my big F block to help spread that around. And I do have some bubbles I can press up from the other side, kind of make that go where I want it to go. Peel that off, but you can add a little bit of interest while this is still wet by sprinkling salt on here. The salt mixes with the alcohol and absorbs some of it, I guess, and leaves a little bit extra pattern on there. We'll set that aside to dry. My card base is powder pink, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, and I have some scrap of Whisper White that I'm going to stamp on. First, I taped down some scrap paper, drew around my block, and then taped some press and seal kitchen wrap on top of that with the sticky side up. This set has a lot of little tiny pieces, and I wanted to stamp them all and cut them all out at the same time. So setting them out with both the framelits and the stamps ensures that there will be room for the framelits around the stamped images. I placed the stamps inside the framelits and then just set the blocks onto the stamps. I carefully lifted up the whole thing and flipped the whole thing over and peeled up the paper and the press and seal. Then I just lifted up the framelits. Then I stamped just for placement, and I put that press and seal on top of the stamped images so it'll be easy for me to get the framelits up. And I put the framelits back in place, and that press and seal really helps to keep those from wiggling around while I'm working. Then I put a piece of packing tape over the framelits so they will all stay in place. Then I lifted up that packing tape, and it didn't stick too bad to the press and seal, and so these will be all laid out exactly where I want them. Then I use the embossing buddy like crazy over the tape so that it doesn't stick to my paper. Then I just put the little solid pieces that I'll be stamping in So Saffron in place over the stamped image and the framelits, and just stuck my B block on top of it. I want to stamp my 2 little flowers in So Saffron. And then I want to stamp all the flowers in Berry Burst. Berry Burst is my favorite new in color. And you want to be sure to stamp those centers in those yellow flowers, and the rest need to stay on your cardstock. Hopefully I've got all of those lined up okay. And then I should be able to place this on my Big Shot platform with the thin die adapter. And these should, in a perfect world, all line up perfectly. And I'll run these through the Big Shot. and bring them in, and they should all pop out. You may want to stamp the large flower on the envelope. I don't want to take these off the blocks. I'm just going to mask the other flowers with a scrap of paper. I want to assemble these flowers, and so I'm just going to use dimensionals. Notice that you have a pointy petal and a rounded petal, so I'm going to line those up. The large center, and you could do that flat or you can use dimensionals there. My smaller flower will just be the 2 layers. Then I'll use the mini dimensionals for these buds. So nice to have these mini dimensionals. And I'll set those aside. I probably shouldn't have taken the backs off. Now I think I'm ready to assemble my card. So I'm bringing in that background and I'm dusting off the salt. And see how the salt made this texture here. I want to stamp the stem. And again, I have these all on one block in Tranquil Tide. And I want to stamp from corner to corner. And my greeting down here in the corner. Love that font. Adhere the flowers to the glossy paper and the buds with dimensionals, and that's it. So if you would like the directions for this card, or the link for all the products, and lots of other card ideas and organizational tools, come on over to bevadams.com, and I'd be very happy to be your demonstrator. Talk to you soon. Bye.